Sarah, do I gotta take your phone? All right, this is just the lecture for Monday's assignment. So I'll put it on iTunes U. Huh? I'm not gonna be here Monday. Yeah.
Is everything, bud? Good luck out there.
Yes. One only. But that's better than none.
Yeah. Well, there's only one.
Okay, so this is pretty easy. This section. It's on triangles. Vertex. Everyone remember what a vertex is? Anytime you got an angle where the two sides meet is a vertex. So when you have a triangle, the corners are all the vertices. Adjacent sides. If you've got a triangle, CB and AC are adjacent because they're next to each other. AC and AB, AB and BC. So adjacent just means they're next to each other. Same as when we did adjacent before. Now, a lot of the stuff we do coming up is right triangles. I think everyone knows what a right triangle is, I hope. In a right triangle, you have a 90 and two other angles. So since this is 90, these two will have to add up to 90 because together, what do all the angles always add up to? 180. Now, if it's a right triangle, the two sides that form the 90, no matter how the triangle is drawn, is called the legs. So the legs form the 90. Opposite the legs, opposite the 90, is the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is always the longest side. All right? Hypotenuse is always the longest side. Now, when they talk about the base of a triangle, that's usually with isosceles triangles. Do you remember isosceles?
No. Yeah. No.
An isosceles triangle has two sides that are the same. So the two sides that are the same are the legs, and then the one that's not a leg is the base. Now the base we think of as the bottom, but it isn't always, because sometimes they draw the isosceles triangle this way. These would be the legs, and this would be the base. Okay. Exterior angles. This is not just on triangles. We'll be doing this on quadrilaterals and pentagons and all that stuff too. But exterior angles is if you just extend each side one way. It really doesn't matter which way you extend it. So on a triangle, there are three exterior angles. Make sense?
Yeah.
If I would have extended like this one this way, what do you know about these two angles? They're vertical, so they're the same. That's why it doesn't matter which way you extend it, but you only extend it one way. And a corollary is just a rule. You'll see corollaries. So, the names of the triangle. Again, you've done this since elementary. To classify it by its sides, if three sides are the same, it's called a equilateral. Lateral means sides. At least two congruent sides, isosceles. Now, that's harder to spell. You can just abbreviate it ISOS. And for some reason, they call an isosceles at least two sides, which this one has at least two sides. So technically, you could call this an isosceles also, but the best name is equilateral. And then no congruent. This is the one a lot of people forget. If none of the sides are equal, remember what that's called?
No congruent.
When you catch a fish and you're going to eat it, what do you do to it?
Keep cutting. Scale.
Scale it.
Wow.
So that's close. It's not it, but it's a scalene triangle. To show that all the sides are different, see if they've got one mark on all sides, that means they're all the same. 2 marks here mean these two are the same. So to show they're different, they could put 1 mark, 2 marks, and 3 marks. They may do that. Then to classify by angles. 3 acute angles. Everyone remember what acute is? Less than 90 is just an acute triangle. 3 congruent angles. It's kind of, it's the same thing as an equilateral, but it's the angles that are the same. Equiangular. Equiangular and equilateral are the same because if 2 or if 3 sides are the same, the 3 angles got to be the same also. Another thing, going back to the isosceles, if 2 sides are the same, what do you know about the angles? 2 angles are the same. And it's the 2 that are on the base that will be the same. We'll learn that later, but this will show you now. Obviously, if there's a right angle in it, it's a right triangle. And if there's one obtuse, it's an obtuse triangle. So, classifying triangles. On your assignment, you got to classify it by its sides and angles. So you got 2 words for them. So this one, looking at it, it's a right.
Acute triangle.
So there I classified it by the angles. And then to classify by its sides, it's a right what? Isosceles. So there's the angles, there's the sides. This one, classifying by the angles, it's obtuse. And none of the sides are marked the same, right? So you'd call it scalene. You don't have to, you could call it a scalene, obtuse, scalene, doesn't matter.
Okay.
This one we already know. The triangle angles always add up to 180. Exterior angles. This one we don't know, but it's kind of common sense. If you got a triangle like this, and they extended one side like I showed you to get an exterior angle, if this angle here is I'll say it's a 60, and this one, it looks like it's close to 90, so I'll call it an 85. If you know 2 angles, you can find the third, because they got to add up to 180. So you just take 180 and minus those.
Can I go take a test of biology?
When we're done with this. So you get 35, right? So once you know that, can you figure out what 1 is?
Yes.
You just subtract, because together they're a linear pair like we've done before, subtract that off of 180, 145. Now, there's a quicker way to do this, and you will have to do it this way when there's writing an equation. The exterior angle is always going to equal the 2 other, not the one hooked to it, the 2 other interior angles added up. 60 plus 85 is 145. These are called remote interior. Remote because they're not hooked to it. Now, the reason why you're going to have to know that is when we take this test, which again is a long ways away, but when we take this test, you're going to have a picture like this, and you got to figure out what this exterior angle is or what x is. So you need to know this theorem in order to figure it out. You need to know that an exterior angle is going to equal the other 2 interior angles added together. So you got to write the equation and then solve it. So here we would just get the x's together, the numbers together, and then solve it. We don't have those yet, but that will be coming up. Okay, this is a corollary, which we already talked about. If this angle is 90, these 2 angles have to add up to 90 because the 3 together make 180. Oh, here we did have one right here. I thought it was in the next section. In order to solve this, I need to know that an exterior angle, which I would just distribute that through and get 2x plus 8. 2x plus 8 has to equal these two added together. If you don't know that, there's no way for you to figure it out unless you just do a bunch of trial and error. So, get the x's together. So I'd move this x over and subtract x from the other one. Because remember, it just changes signs when you move it. So that means get the non-x's to the other side. It's a plus, so you minus. And we got x is 42. So, that's pretty much the two problems in the assignment on Monday. Classifying triangles by its angles and sides. So this is a right. That's the angles. What are the sides?
Right.
Scalene. Nothing is marked, but since all the angles are different, all the sides have to be different. And then when we've got the exterior angles, you need to write an equation on this one. Not all of them you do, but this one. You need to know that 3x plus 10, the exterior angles, is going to equal the other two angles added together. So then you just solve it. Get this x over, it's a plus, so you minus. Get this plus 10 over, it's a plus, so you minus. Then divide by 2, and you get 30. All right? So I'll send that to you on iTunes U.